First of all, let me open up. My name's Tom Sifko. I'm the city engineer with the City of Hudson. And we're here tonight to discuss the upcoming project on Vine Street. And one thing, if you could do me a favor, there's a sign-up sheet going around. It'd be very nice if you could put your name and contact information there. And the purpose of this meeting is get your input, and we can go over the things as shown on the agenda there. Again, I'm Tom Sifko, the city engineer. Tom Zuli's the city public works director. I'm sure most of you probably know Tom. Steve Heth and Christina Malinek are with Bolton and Mink. They're our consulting engineers. They will be doing the plans and specs. In other words, they're doing the actual design of the project. So with that, again, I think you all have a copy of the agenda. What we'd like to do is pretty much go through the agenda. We'll explain the proposed improvements, go through the utilities and what the plan is for the actual construction. Then we'll get into a little bit about the construction itself, talking about a little bit about schedule, a little bit about sequencing, detouring, and access. Have to caution you a little bit, we will not have your definite final answers on construction detours. We are not 100% done with the plans and specifications, but we're going to get there. But we thought that's going to be a kind of an important topic that most people want to at least bring up. And then we'll talk a little bit about communication during construction, and then at the end we'll do some questions and answers. I like having these types of meetings be a little bit informal, so make sure I get your questions and make sure we get your answers to those questions. So with that, I guess, unless there's any real quick questions, let's start out. We'll have Steve from Bolton and Mink go through the proposed improvements. Thank you.
I'll just start out. I'm Steve Heth with Bolton and Mink Engineering. The city back in February of 2012 commissioned a previous engineer to do a study on Vine Street to see the feasibility of improving it. I think we'll all agree that Vine Street's in rough shape. Before that study was done back in 2010, we had complaints of flooding up the alley between 4th and 5th, and then some flooding in the alley west of 7th Street. So we kind of combine those two studies together. If we're going to redo Vine Street, how do we fix those flooding issues that were occurring in those two low areas? So we started looking at kind of the big picture, and then we talked about what should be the typical section of Vine Street to serve the traffic needs that are out there now. Currently, the Vine Street varies from 31 to 36 feet. So we picked that we're going to keep it a consistent width of 36 feet measured from face of curb to face of curb for the full extent from 1st Street up to 9th Street. We walked and evaluated the sidewalks on both sides of Vine Street, and we found that about 90% of it is in really pretty good shape. We decided not to replace all of it just where the sidewalk was in bad shape. Try and save money. The power poles are located along the south side. They're kind of close to the curb now. Excel is moving them back so that when we widen the street a little bit, that we'll have 2 feet of clear zone between them. We met with all the utility companies. The gas company is going to directional drill a new gas main underneath the north sidewalk. Typical section, again, we're going to try and leave the sidewalk in place wherever we can. The street, we're going to center it in the right-of-way, and then it'll be 18 feet on each side of center line to the face of curb. As far as utilities go, There will be a new 42-inch outlet down to the river. It'll start at the river, kind of on the south side of the swimming beach, come up through the beach parking lot, come up along First Street, and then come straight up Vine Street. It'll start out as a 42, and then it'll change sizes. This will be the storm sewer going up the alley between 4th and 5th. It's a 36-inch pipe and terminates with a piece of 30-inch pipe. I'll stay on this board. Water main from First Street up to 2nd Street will be 8-inch pipe. And then from 2nd Street up to 7th Street will be 12-inch pipe. The utility has that 1 million gallon reservoir on 7th Street. And it's always been the utility's goal to get that 1 million gallons available to go up to North Hudson. So when 7th Street was redone, a 12-inch main was extended down to Vine. This will extend that 12-inch main down to 2nd. When WisDOT redoes 2nd Street, that main will go up to Lake Malibu and a new crossing will be put in. North Hudson already extended a 12-inch main years ago down to Lake Malibu for that purpose. If we go up to 7th Street, there'll be a 12-inch storm sewer that'll come down from the alley where it floods right now and tie in to the 24-inch line that continues on down to the river. Again, 12-inch main for water up to 7th Street, 8-inch main up to 9th to replace the water main that's in there now. There will be anybody that has a water or sewer connection, as far as your private, or not private, but your connections to your house, to the main, those services will be replaced from the main. On the water side, it'll be to the curb stop. On the sewer side, it'll be just shy of the sidewalk, so that we get all of those services replaced so that we don't need to dig the street up again.
Steve, if I could add one thing on the discussion on services. Again, as Steve mentioned, there's going to be a new main in the street. The sanitary sewer is not going to be replaced, but these services that Steve refers to, which really serve your individual homes, will be replaced. If you are experiencing any issues with your sanitary sewer, you've had some backups, I would highly suggest that now is the time you get an individual plumber or someone out there, because from the property line back is your private pipe, so to speak. So in other words, if there are issues in there, now would be a good time. And you may or may not have issues, but if there are issues, now is the time you might want to have somebody at least investigate that relative to the sewer service. Sorry, Steve, I was just throwing it.
No, that's fine. And the other thing, anybody has a question, just stop me as I'm going. But our goal, if we're gonna spend all this money on the street and get it fixed, we don't want the services, somebody needing to dig that service up later and tear up the street. So we're trying to be proactive in that end of it.
So you said you're not replacing the sanitary sewer, right?
No, the sanitary sewer, we televised it. It's in relatively good shape except for one run where it's getting some erosion on the top of the pipe due to the gases that are building up in it. That's very common. We're gonna suggest city line that in the future, and that we can do anytime, so.
It doesn't it doesn't require pulling up sidewalk, asphalt to line that?
No, not the main. They'll just go manhole to manhole and pull a liner in. It's real slick the way it's done, so.
So you mentioned early on the kind of the scope and the request from the city. was to address the flooding issues.
That was
And
part of
the
it.
pavement, I'm assuming, is cracked now, patched, and you want to repave the road probably as part of this project, right?
The road will be completely repaved with new curb and gutter.
Right. So the pipes themselves, are they being moved further? Are they going to be in the exact same place they're in now?
No, the sanitary is right down the center of the
Down the
street.
center, okay.
And that stays, we're not gonna touch that other than the service lines that go to the houses.
Sure.
And not all the houses are served off the sanitary on Vine Street. In fact, most are served off the side streets.
I guess my question is more around just, what's the purpose of having to widen the street if ultimately it's to flow the water and repave it? Why are we widening?
The street varies right now from 31 to 36, and then it gets wider again. So we're just trying to keep it uniform. It can allow for bikes to travel outside the traffic lane. We will have 18 feet. Normal traffic lane widths are 11 or 12. So we will have some extra width there to be used. And we haven't decided yet if the parking stays or the parking changes.
Yeah, and maybe I can address that too. There's a number of issues driving this project. As Steve mentioned earlier, the initial report was done and started from when I came on board, so to speak. But anyway, there was a report done in 2010. There was a drainage study for the downtown area. That's where the original feasibility study started, identifying 3 or 4 flooding issues in the town. There's another one right here out at the intersection of Walnut and 3rd, right outside the window here. And we're going to try to take care of that intersection. So there's an intersection issue there. There's a couple alley issues that Steve mentioned. That was all identified in a 2010 study. The City Council commissioned another feasibility study in 2012, and that one pretty much started with the roadway is in terrible shape and it's deteriorating. So when they looked at that particular study in 2012, you can't really look at a street deterioration issue without looking at the drainage issue. So then you combine the two issues, and then that study was done. So now this past year in 2015, again, this street is continuing to deteriorate. It's one of the worst ones in towns. Anyway, so the study now, basically, what the council ordered is updating that study relative to need and condition of various things, such as the street and these flooding issues, and then update the costs since the previous 2 reports. So that council approved that feasibility study, I'm thinking August, I believe, and they're decided to go forward with this project. So if you look at the condition of the street and the deterioration, the fact that we do have some flooding issues, which drives the need for storm sewer. Now the water main issue, there's more than just a 12-inch pipe is needed to connect reservoirs and an overall system. The other thing is there's places on Vine Street that has 4-inch diameter pipe, which is pretty much unheard of in any community. It's too small. And the other thing is, and this shocked me, some of that pipe, believe it or not, was put in 1880. I want to say 8, something like the 1880s. And that really surprised me that some of that pipe, I'm referring to the water main now, is that old. So the other thing, like Steve said, we did televise the sanitary sewer, because if you're going to do construction on the street, you don't want to put money on top of problems below. So this is kind of a culmination of a lot of issues to get to the point where we're actually rebuilding Vine Street. Yes?
Yes, well, that still does not answer, at least my question, as to why we need to widen Vine Street, except for the fact that there's not, the same measurement from 9th above and 4th below.
Right, is it just aesthetics that we're
Yeah, is
going
it
for?
aesthetics?
Well,
And
for
that's
30
my first question. My second one is, what have you determined is the cause of the deterioration?
The cause?
The cause of the.
Are you talking about the sanitary sewer now?
No, I'm talking about the street itself. You said Vine Street has deteriorated.
Well, the biggest reason is age. It's quite old. If you look at, this problem is not unique to Hudson. This problem is every city
I
has this.
understand all that. I want to know, it was paved we were still living there when it was redone. We remember when it was done.
Well, the whole thing was dug down to
Yeah.
nothing but back in 85 when we moved in, so it's been 30 years. Because when we moved in, we couldn't, Vine Street was totally dug up when we moved in 85, July
And it was done
85.
later than that,
And then it
too.
was resurfaced.
Resurfaced again.
Okay, you're in 85, from where to where was it resurfaced?
Well, in front of our place.
Where it
From, I
started
think it
to
was
stop.
the intersection of 7th Street up by
Up, yeah.
Reed.
So east of 7th.
Yes.
I moved in 85 and it was also dug up.
Was
and I
yours dug
lived
up
on-
down there?
Yeah, on
Okay,
5th
okay.
Street, yeah.
Okay, I'm not sure what happened at 85. I don't know if it was a street project at that time, if there was a water main leak and they fixed the leak and then had to fix part of the street on top of it.
I thought they
Um,
put sewer in maybe. Is that possible?
I don't believe they did sewer in 85, not sanitary sewer, not that I'm aware of, no. Be big it.
All summer, yeah.
The city has miles and miles of streets, and there's only so much money to fix miles and miles of streets. So you look at the condition of the streets, annually, there's a pavement rating done where you go out, I think you have to turn it in every 2 years, Tom, to the DOT, as part of reporting to the state. And you rate you do pavement ratings on all your streets, and Vine Street's rated one of the lowest streets. I believe it's a 2, Steve Hazer ratings. I think it was
2 or 3, yeah.
2 or 3, and out of 10. 10 is, on this end of the scale, 1 terrible. We're at a 2 or 3 with that street. So from the standpoint of pavement condition, it's deteriorating. Now, the other thing to look at it is, there are not a lot of east-west roadways in the city of Hudson, so there's more traffic on Vine Street than on the surrounding side streets, like if you went up 3rd Street, 4th Street, 5th Street. This is a kind of an east-west street, but again, of which there's not a lot in the city of Hudson. So I don't know if that helps answer your question.
Well, I guess that, I think, is what everybody's kind of asking, and that is it purely a matter of some, I wouldn't say arbitrary, but just aesthetic desire to have it uniform, or is there something else driving widening 3136? It sounds to me like you could accomplish all the objectives that you've talked about, there's deterioration and placement of water mains, doing the services without widening the road.
Yeah.
And so
Okay.
what I'm trying to just, and I think others are trying to get a handle on, is that is there anything other than a desire for uniformity, or is it a matter of facilitating increased traffic flow?
The existing road, as Steve said, is 36, 37 foot wide for a majority of the project. I believe we have, is it 4 blocks in the middle, so to speak, Steve, that are
Fourth
31
and
feet?
Ninth is 31
Okay.
feet.
So when you say we're widening, yes, technically we are widening, we're going
4 feet
from
wide.
4 or 5 feet wider in the middle of the project.
What's
It-
the
it-
advantage of that?
Why?
So cars can go faster.
Yeah, they go faster.
Yeah.
That's our fear, and we have children. Vine Street traffic is so fast. Just yesterday, a lady whizzed by going 50, 60 miles an hour, and this happens regularly. I mean, the traffic is so fast, and that's not being monitored. We have children crossing here. We have a child crossing in the dark in the morning from 8th across to get to the bus, and their big hill is right there at 8th. And it is dangerous. The roads are slippery and our child is walking across. And we just fear with a widened street, they're gonna go even faster. We're wondering, why are they going so fast? Can we get stop signs at 7th and 9th if this widening comes through? Because the traffic makes my heart stop how fast they go. In the middle of the night, 2 in the morning, I will wake up because somebody's going 70, 80 miles an hour down Vine Street. It happens almost 2-3 times a week. It wakes me up.
I agree with you, and I live close to 9th. My daughter has to cross the street right there at 9th to get to the school bus stop. We live on, I guess, the south side, I think. Regardless, she has to cross the street to get to the school bus, and the traffic is so fast, I think we need a crosswalk there and a stop sign, because as you're crossing the street right there at 9th, there's a blind spot coming around and down the hill that people are just, catching that curve and flying into town.
Right.
And I every day worry
Yeah.
that my child or somebody else's child is gonna get hit.
And the snow plows come barreling down that road from east to west because you pick up speed and, you know, enough to knock over garbage cans and there's a lot of snow. We don't want it wider.
We don't
We
want
have
it wider.
semi-trucks that use that, because I believe it's still a truck route, that was never addressed. We have semis that barrel up there at 4 o'clock in the morning on Saturday mornings, you widen that, and guess what? They stop using the freeway because then they don't have to hit the scales.
Yeah.
It's just not a good idea, and I believe it's just aesthetics.
And we need stop signs. If there's widening, we have to
Even if it's not
seriously.
widening,
stop
yeah.
signs.
I mean, it's just,
Stop signs are not a component of widening. And
Well, we've never.
Well,
had
then
any
they need to be a
stop signs.
component, period, because Vine Street's a danger right now.
and
It's
it's,
a danger.
and it's not being policed.
And we're totally opposed to widening the street. We think it's strictly for aesthetic purposes. There's no reason.
well,
for
I guess
having
one thing we
it.
could look at is narrowing up the street and banning parking for the full length.
That's
Not a
That-
problem. Nobody
Okay,
in
but
my mind
I'm just saying,
wants to-
there are, we could look at,
No parks on Vine Street.
Everybody does.
I'm sorry, but
Sorry.
as I get older, when, it's just me, when more than one talk, I missed everybody's statement there, sorry, but.
I would just like to say, you know, parking, I believe, my opinion is not an issue. Nobody in their right mind parks on Vine Street because people go too fast and you're just asking for your car to be hit. So I think the residents of Vine Street would probably all feel that same way. So if you would like to widen it so we can have parking, I have an alley in the back, I don't really need, I have no interest in parking in front. And neither do my guests, you know?
No, no.
Okay,
no,
let me
no.
just, real quick, the widening thing isn't aesthetics. It's, you have a width on both ends and it's throttled down in the middle.
But
And with the existing parking, I think there's areas there that are more or less unsafe now, just from the standpoint of parking. And if somebody opens up a door, somebody's driving by. So it was to get a consistent width, so you get a consistent lane width and a consistent parking width.
People aren't
Now,
parking
if we-
people aren't parking further up on Vine. They're not parking up on Ninth and above. Why
We
didn't-
can look at a total parking ban and see what impact that has on the design typical section. We can do that. One thing I do want to throw out is that the speed limit is 25, and maybe it's an enforcement issue, but 25 is the smallest or the least amount of speed limit you're going to get on any street anyway. And the width that's out there, or even a narrower width, is still going to have the 25-foot speed limit. And maybe we got to talk to the police chief, and maybe there's an enforcement issue here relative to the speeding.
Regardless of
But-
whether you widen it or not, we need crosswalks and stop signs.
And that needs to be taken care of before we even think about anything else, because this is a safety issue. I mean, speeding, this 25 miles an hour is a joke. Nobody goes 25 miles an hour,
You
ever.
get passed.
You get passed on Vine Street.
I've been passed.
And if it widens, they'll pass more.
because right now that narrowing
It
slows
kind of
some
slows
people
down.
down.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Steve, can I
Again, we
ask,
can look at that.
can I add a couple things? I think another thing to consider is there was, talk of, putting a bike lane in. That was one of the reasoning for having it consistent, you know, to go in and out. If there was talk of, you know, if they would consider a bike lane, you would have to, you know, the council would have to make a decision on no parking. Another option was, you know, and my thought, Steve, is, you know, they're talking about speed is to include possibly some electronic, you know, radar or speed detectors on the project, just to, you know, as a warning for some people for speed. You know, people don't realize sometimes if they're going 30 or 40, you know, maybe that would help. Another thing is that I've seen is on intersections, we've talked a little bit about crosswalks and kids crossing, is, you know, there's another design where intersections where there's like a calming thing at intersections where actually the intersections actually is reduced, you know, the crosswalk area. So, you know what I'm talking about, the ped ramps actually come out into the roadway. That actually is, I think, is designed for slowing traffic. Is that a consideration also?
Just to add, that's one of the reasons we're having this meeting tonight, is to hear from the public. I don't live on Vine Street, so it's nice to hear what's going on out there. Tom Zulli brought up there are traffic calming measures that we can look into, I can't promise them. The stop sign issue, I think probably 15 years ago, Tom, Bowenstro studied that whole corridor as far as where stop signs should go on Vine Street, and the report was done. And where we have them today, that's where they came up with having them. I
There's
think it,
nowhere to
15 years
stop.
ago.
And that's 15 years ago.
No.
There is nowhere to stop. They're flying. I can tell you, flying 25 miles an hour that never happens. They fly, and I don't know where the police are. I've spoken to police several times. I mean, we have children at our house. We have a child on bikes. This is a danger. Vine Street's a danger.
If you lived on Vine Street, you'd be sitting in one of these chairs.
Yes.
And I don't know why anybody would want to ride their bike on Vine Street. It's just,
No.
even to add a bike lane, it's just.
I mean, I do, that's the only
Everybody
way to
uses
get
the
downtown.
sidewalk.
I have two kids that I pull up early behind, and that's, I would love to have a bike lane there.
Well.
I can tell you, most of the people biking downhill are probably doing 50. So I
Yeah,
don't know
yeah,
if you track that,
yeah.
but you could write a lot of tickets on a weekend, if you get about skateboard and a
Yeah,
shot. But
skateboards and everything.
I think we all understand the infrastructure piece, the pipes, that type of stuff, flooding. We live downhill from a bluff. There probably isn't a big enough pipe that's gonna help the flowage, okay? So we gotta work with
Say
that.
something? Go ahead.
I understand.
Tom, I appreciate you.
Hold on, we got two people talking, sorry.
Right, and I've been
Oh.
trying to raise my hand and get called on, but everyone's talking, and so that's why I stood up and I talked. But I appreciate your comments, Tom, and I'm part of a bicycle organization, in fact, a few bicycle organizations, and we actually want to have bike access on Vine Street, and the reason is because everyone's already biking on it now. And if you think it's unsafe for your kids crossing the street, try biking down it. And this isn't a tiny opinion. A lot of people would like to have bike lanes on Vine Street. Last summer, someone came up to me and said, complained because was concerned because their daughter was riding her bike down the sidewalk on Vine Street, which is what people are doing, younger people, as opposed to being on Vine Street. Because Vine Street is dangerous. It can be made safer. Your calming issues are an excellent idea. But what they were riding down Vine Street and they ran into someone's fence, which really is on city property, as it turns out, and they broke their arm. And this is all because they were trying to avoid riding down the street. So the need for pedestrians and bicycles to be able to transport down Vine Street is very, very critical. And I guess I would continue to support that and encourage the city to go forward with making Vine Street a street that works for everyone. I sympathize with your speeding issue. I would be concerned too. But the need for bike lanes on Vine Street is very critical.
Well, I understand your concerns, but
But I have two.
Well,
You've had your hand up for
Yeah.
10 minutes, yeah.
So I have a property on Vine Street that's up on, in between 8th and 9th. You know, and it's right where you gotta come down the hill to start. And I think, one thing I think would be a lot safer if there was a stop sign at 9th
That's right.
and Vine, because that, you know, if they're coming down, and I disagree with everyone's speed, because I always drive 20, or, you know, I don't even put my, I usually have it on the brake, you know, so it's not everybody speeding down that street. A lot of people go quite slow. But that would stop the ones that do speed, 9th, and also just make it safer for the people trying to get across at 9th. But I've always thought like that street should be wider. You know, the boulevards are really, really wide. They're much wider than anywhere else in the city, a lot wider. And, you know, it'd make more sense to have bike lane on one side, because there are a lot of people that bike on Vine Street. You know, make it safer, and that would give more space for parking on the other side, where it could be parking all year round instead of having to have it so it's only, you know, part of the year for parking.
So I think the big difference between what Pat's mentioning and the rest of us is that she runs a business on Vine Street, which is a rental property. And obviously, bike lanes, wider lanes, street parking's more attractive to a business owner than people that live there?
She also doesn't live there to know the speed either.
I'd like to comment on that. As one is, I've been working on that house for the last 10 years, so I probably mount my front yard and out in the yard over there and see a lot more what's going on every day with traffic and the people that actually live there and don't ever park in front and go out the back doors. And so whether it's still a substantial home, and I do observe what's going on that street, and, you know, it doesn't make, when people are saying it's so unsafe, and people, you know, it's 25 miles an hour, that is an unsafe speed. That, you know, I don't know, is there any place else in the city that has that wide of boulevards?
It's also historic
Yeah, it's historic.
area, you know, and I would hope that we would appreciate that and understand that it's, you know, one of the older neighborhoods, one of the older, you know, with beautiful homes on both sides that are well over 100 years old, and I hope that we would
Well,
take that into consideration
The whole
too.
downtown area is all historic homes, you know, and the rest of the area doesn't have those wide boulevards like that. You know, so that's just a question. I mean, the engineer just asking, does anyone
Well,
know?
just let me, as far as I know, the right-of-ways are reasonably consistent in that whole area of town. I believe the right-of-way is 66 feet on
66.
Vine Street, and I think 7th, and most of those are 60? Or
60
they
and
might be even
66.
66. So I'm not aware of a big difference in the right-of-way per
There
se
is.
in the street. So the width of the street takes up room, and sidewalks take up room, and whatever's left is boulevard. So I'm not aware of a big, like 50 or 40-foot right-of-ways.
On Vine Street, and then you measure it on any of the other streets, it's a lot wider.
I'd like to ask one quick question, because my major concern is safety for the kids. I live on Vine Street, I live on the side where there's no parking. I'm not as concerned about whether or not you widen the street. I'm concerned about safety for the kids that live on the street, and pedestrians and cyclists. And this is a multi-million-dollar project, right?
Right.
What is the cost of a few stop signs and some paint for a crosswalk? It's minimal.
Okay, believe it or not, again, with this size of a project, it's not a cost issue. Again, based on what we're hearing here, and this is good input, because I pretty much have my marching orders right now, we aren't even at the end of the meeting, but relative to stop signs, crosswalks, calming effects, speeds, and I've been in a few meetings before where things like stop signs, I remember, I wasn't totally involved, but there was an issue on Vine Street. I believe it was, there's a stop sign at 3rd, and there was a stop sign at 4th, up until about, don't quote me, 5 years ago? Maybe 7 years ago. And I remember there was a lot of discussion, let's say, pro and con, about that one intersection with a stop sign. So when you look at traffic from the standpoint of what it's supposed to do, carry the cars, this and that, there can be some times where just by adding stop sign can actually add to being it more unsafe. Now, I'm not saying add one at 9 is more unsafe, I'm not saying that. But there are some conditions where just by plunking down stop signs in a segment of roadway, and it's got to do with a lot of things, you know, traffic counts, type of traffic on there, speed is obviously a big issue, as you referred already. Backing
We're talking
things
about
up.
halfway between downtown and a school zone. I'm talking about one stop sign, not plunking down several of
Well,
them.
no, but I'm just throwing out an example of, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
there are
We
no
will definitely
stop
look at that.
There are none until you
No,
get to
I
third.
realize that.
And
But I'm just
so-
saying from past projects that I've been involved with, and again, some
It's
people
only a
talk.
matter of time before you have a pedestrian accident on that block
Because there's
from
a hill
9th to
there.
7th.
There's
It is a
hill.
blind spot and people speed down through there. It's only a matter of time.
Okay.
I think, Tom, what we can do is check with the police chief and get the traffic records or accident records for that corridor through, and we can take a look at it. If the stop sign is part of this project, fine. If it isn't part, you know, it can be put in if after the project's built. We can take a look at it. The crosswalk, that's something else that can be looked at.
Separately.
If there's, you know, enough pedestrian traffic crossing there, we could take a look at adding that crosswalk. And that doesn't have to be part of this project. If it's a good idea and no value. Again, like Tom pointed out, the city put in, that was quite a few years ago, that stop sign at 4th Street, Tom was
Yep.
taken out. Was put in for a while and then Bonestro did that whole study.
Hold up.
Yep.
That stop sign at 4th and Vine Street was there for 50, 60 years. It was pulled out because of a petition by a certain business person.
That's right.
And I've had my business there for the last 40 years, and it was there. It was then taken out. I petitioned to get it back. I was criticized because somebody said I wanted people to slow down for my business, which wasn't true. People still stop there. My window faces that stop sign and looks right out on it. And the people still stop there on occasion. There's no stop sign. So from the standpoint of get your facts straight, it was about 5 years ago they pulled that stupid stop sign. And now we have one at 3rd, which there wasn't one at 3rd before. And so from the standpoint of the people racing up and down, and their municipal vehicles also that race up and down. So it's a situation,
And the
everybody
police.
just calm down. The study that has to be done, they have to do a traffic study. It isn't just saying we want to put a stop sign in. There has to be a need from the standpoint of traffic studies. Having the idea of bringing out, because you've got the kids there twice a day going up to 4th Street School, that it's a situation where they do have the crosswalk there, they do have the crossing guard, but by putting in the type of thing that the two Toms talked about, with bringing the pedestrian lanes out further, it slows traffic down. And so that's something that can be done, so. Sorry about the speed.
I think that stop sign should go back on 4th, it was a lot better. I live on 4th and Locust, so I see the traffic going there too, and you know, they didn't used to have a person there for the crossing because everyone stopped. You know, it wasn't dangerous for the kids to cross, now they have to have somebody out there standing. So I think it was a good idea having it there, and it should go back.
Plus,
But 9th Street, that's, you know, kind of a no-brainer up there because it is a blind spot and it would slow the traffic down. And it's hard also to get across the street, like a lot of times I'm trying to pull out because I have parking lot behind my property. And you're trying to pull out because there's a big wall, you know, right there all the way down the side of Vine Street. It's hard to see. You know, you can only see the cars right when they get to the top. So if there was a stop, it would make it a lot safer, easier for people to get across and slow down the traffic.
We'll take a look at
You
it.
know, all I wonder, I'm not sure your name is the 4th Street. All I was saying, in the back of my mind, I remember when they pulled that stop sign out, and I live in town too, and I know it was very controversial. That's all I was trying to refer to. And yes, a study can be done, and we can review whether certain intersections meets warrants for stop signs, or meets warrants for, a traffic study, you know, whether it warrants a sign, a stop sign. You get into heavier streets, it's a signal, and we can see whether any of those intersections meet warrants for stops. Okay.
Can I change the subject just a little bit?
Doug, is there a lot
Okay, wait,
of money
like somebody's-
to do a traffic search? I mean, if it's common knowledge to everybody that there's a problem there,
Yeah.
why waste that
Yeah.
kind of money?
They have to do it
No.
pursuant to statute. This isn't something we're making up, okay?
Go ahead.
The gas is being put in as a directional drilling type of thing. Is that the same methodology that NSP would do if they were putting it underground?
As who would do?
NSP, XL.
Well, they're the owner of the system, so that, yeah, and
Would
that's,
it be by directional drilling?
well, we can't guarantee that. That's what they've indicated to us as of right now. We've had meetings with them. They say they're gonna directionally drill it. Yes, that's what they say.
Well, what I'm wondering is there a reason why NSP is not undergrounding their electrical lines other than just cost?
Well, that's the biggest issue, because we've had discussions with them about that.
How did that go?
Not real good.
Mr. Elwood's in.
Basically, I'll give you a quick synopsis. Wisconsin Street, you're familiar with the construction that occurred this year. Okay, on Wisconsin Street, there was a segment of power poles that had to be set back based on the new typical section and the sidewalks that were constructed there. XL, at their cost, moved those poles back, redid their wires. There's another segment of about 400 feet, I think, that they relocated gas mains. All that work was done at XL's cost, and they didn't bill the city of Hudson for any of that work. To go in and completely redo Vine Street, they have told us they are not doing that at their own cost. And it's a heavy line, a lot of voltage. It's kind of a big deal from a design perspective. And this is what they're telling us. It gets very much more complicated based on all the service connections to the individual houses. And to go put all that underground is a substantial cost. And some of the preliminary numbers that I was told was somewhere in the $800,000-900,000 cost to go ahead and do that. And I'm not sure if that even took care of when you start going into the homes and start doing underground in people's yards. I'm not sure if that was in the $800,000 or not, but they said it was about $800,000 to put that line under. So there's a cost that the city doesn't have funds to, towards that $800,000. Yes.
Well, a number of us on Vine, main concern is widening of that section, and it has a domino effect in that because of the widening of the street, the boulevard is cut down, which brings into question, the issue of the utility poles, and then the cost of, people wanting those to go underground and not having that as an option, or a limited option. Our question again is, why are you widening the street?
The plan as of now to widen the street is a factor of two factors. One is the consistency of the width at one end and the width at the other end. And there is also some safety thought process put into that because of the parking and the fact that a 12-foot lane with a car parked there, there's no room for anybody's error, whether somebody's veering or somebody's opening up a door. So again, even if it's only 2 feet on either side, that was the thought that went into it. Again, we can look at traffic calming issues, bump outs at intersections, which is also one of the traffic calming techniques.
Well, if they took away parking on that section and put in, and used that area as a bike lane and not widen the streets.
Okay, in the 66-foot right-of-way and the roadway we're gonna build, you cannot get both parking and bike lanes in
Right.
that same width.
So if you took
So
away
if you
the
pick parking, bike lanes go away.
If you
If you
take
pick
away
bike
parking.
lanes, pardon?
If you take away parking and just make it a bike lane.
Then there's room to put in bike lane, correct?
Yes.
One
Yes,
bike
and we
lane
don't need
on
to
one
widen the
side.
street. I'm
A bike
asking
lane.
you, we don't need to widen the street if we use that area that was parking and say there is no parking. I mean, there's limited parking during the year
Okay.
on Vine Street. If we take away
Again-
that parking and make it a bike lane, then why do we need to widen the street?
Okay, again, this is why we're having this meeting.
Mhm.
Any other city I've ever worked in, if I would've showed up at a public meeting just like this and said, guess what? We're getting rid of all the parking. That's why this is a really good meeting. Because in every meeting I've ever gone to, if I would've showed up with the introductory statement of we're banning all the parking, I would've got lynched. Most people will not give away their parking on the street, in almost most cases. But again, this is good. But we can get, if there's a room for a bike lane, and we'll have to look at it, like Steve says, we're not gonna have 2 bike lanes, one on the left, one on the right. But if we eliminate parking, there is potential for bike lanes. But we didn't look at that because typically people are irate when you remove parking.
I'm against
May I just,
removing the parking.
Well, see here, even in this discussion, we have people that are pro and con on the parking issue. So.
It seems like everyone else is ready to get rid of all the parking, and I use the street a lot, and I think it's really inconvenient not to have the parking in front.
may I just say, we don't have parking on Vine Street, and I would like to, I'm not sure how far it goes down, but we don't have parking, and we're on the north side, from November 15th till March 15th. So we're used to not parking on there anyway.
Okay.
And when you would want the parking the most, we can't park, because you would want the parking there, like in the winter, so you don't have to come all the way from the back to shop your groceries, those kinds of things. So for that space where we can't park during those months, we're used to not parking there. And I'm wondering how far down Vine Street, can you park on your side of the street?
Yeah,
During
only
those- So it's
certain times of the year.
So it's just worked down
At
the
the
street.
church you can.
I have a quick question about the widening and the parking. If the street is wide, will there be parking on both sides of the street then, where there is not parking now on Vine?
At this point, no, none of the
Okay.
parking would change.
So that widened portion on the other side would be the bike lane?
No, it isn't being designated a bike lane at this point, it's just there's,
Sure.
remember, the traffic lane is 11 to 12 feet, so say 12, that's 24 feet.
I'm just
Yeah,
asking because I would
30
love to be able to park in front of my house because I don't have access, given the way that it's positioned. I don't actually have access to my home from the road. I have to use an alley, and the alley ends, and Pat, you could
Right.
speak to this, I don't really have
Right, exactly.
access to my property from either Ninth or Vine. But that's, regardless, it's an aside, it's not something to cover here.
I have something to.
Sure.
I respect all the opinions of the people who live on Vine Street, but that street is not just for the use of people who live on Vine Street. You're impacted by the people who travel up and down it, but many people who live in Hudson and outside of Hudson travel up and down Vine Street and use it for a lot of reasons. So I think although you live on Vine Street, you want it to be, probably want it to stay the way it is because it's what you're used to. But in all reality, that's probably not going to, it can hardly be the result because Vine Street is not a safe street to be traveling on right now. So what you're offering is an improved facility that serves everyone, not just the people who live on Vine Street.
Those of us
And
who
to your-
live on Vine Street deal with the school buses back and forth to the school district. We're not benefiting by living in Vine Street. The fire trucks, the ambulances, they tear up and down that street. That's who's using it. We live there, we put up with that in our historic houses. But I mean, that's, we're gonna be obsessed more and that kind of thing, and it's not really us that's benefiting.
I mean, are the bike people going to put in for all the money that we're gonna have to pay for this
We're
widening
getting
that we don't
assessment.
want? Is the bike club gonna help pay for that? Because that'd be awesome.
Yeah, because our property taxes are going up.
I mean, the bike thing, you don't have to pay.
Well, that's one thing you're not addressing tonight is assessment, that's an entirely separate issue. And that would have to do with the special benefit given to particular properties. What's pointed out here is that basically the project is driven by things that don't have to do with our properties, it has to do with the larger purpose of Vine Street, it seems.
Well, yes and no. I mean, there is benefit living on Vine Street to having a new street there. The street has deteriorated to the point where it needs work. It has gone beyond the useful life. Typically, when there's a new street, in some period of years, maintenance activities occur over the life of that street. Typically, it's brand new. Then you start at some point down the road with crack filling, then you get to a seal coat, then at some point, it's a mill and overlay, and as you go down there, and then you get to a reconstruct.
The
But
road construction is for the passage of traffic for the entire system, not necessarily for the properties that happen to border on, right?
I would, no,
I don't have any.
if you go down 7th Street or go down 6th Street, there's a street at each case, and there's people that live on those streets. Are you saying that street doesn't serve the general public? What the issue on Vine, there's no difference between 7th Street and Vine Street relative to having a street in front of a house, other than, to your point, Vine Street has significant more traffic. Reason being, there's not a lot of east-west corridor roadways in the city of Hudson. You can go over to Cooley Road, and I don't really even consider that a straight east-west street, because you're going up and you're kind of curving around and you get up by the commercial district. So just the way the Hudson is laid out, there are not a lot of options for east-west traffic. So yes, you as a homeowner, I don't know what else we can do, what else the city can do to not allow traffic on Vine Street, or...
That wasn't the point of my.
Well, but there are...
I would like one point of fact to ask about. Is it still anticipated that the south side of Vine Street would have parking ban year-round?
Yeah.
Because presently, that's what the case is in this section.
Nothing has been proposed to change the parking that's out there right now.
Or lack parking.
We did look, if we wanted designated bike lanes, we'd have to remove parking on the north side year-round. Right now, there is that stretch that's seasonal.
My question has to do with the south side. It would still be a year-round parking ban on the south side, correct?
Nothing, right. I'll just say yes.
Okay, yeah, that's all I'm asking.
Well, I think, because it is, as far as I know, that is the only street that goes through from Carmichael down to the river. Isn't that correct?
Well, St. Croix kind of goes around.
I mean, from a practical standpoint, yes. I mean, you can diagonal or turn and get through, but yes, again, that's a given with the city of Hudson, the way it's laid out. I mean, we aren't gonna get rid of the Vine Street right of way. I don't know if we could do that.
It's the only street that goes from,
Pardon?
that cuts through the middle of town, and so it's different than all the rest of the streets in town because of the fact that it is the only one that cuts through town, and it's used by significant amount of people, on a regular basis. It's used by the entire city rather than like all the side streets that go up and down, mainly used by the people that live there or delivery or friends coming to visit, where Vine's a total different story. That's.
No, I agree with you.
And I just think that the homeowners should have to pay a lot less when you say, the whole general amount of the city should pay for more of that, like
Well,
everybody's tax money.
If we could, I'd like to leave the payment thing totally separate, because we're talking about I realize that, but the pay issue is, we can touch on that later on if you want, but this is not a public assessment hearing, it is not a public improvement hearing, this is a public informational meeting to get your input.
Well, a lot of people might be against having it widened because they don't want to pay for it, because it was.
You're not paying for the widening in any event.
Well, we're not paying for anything.
Okay, I could say,
Yeah.
as a resident, you're not paying indirectly as a part of a project cost down the road, yes. But you're not getting assessed for the wider roadway.
You're saying, when are we going to get charged for it?
Okay, can we leave, I have to, sorry, we need to leave the pay question separate. We can't go back and forth between specifics, and it's good to say in the specifics, because that dictates the scope of the project and what we're designing and what we're building.
So I think you've heard the loud and clear safety.
I took a lot of notes already. I have them down here, and I'm almost gonna guarantee you there's other people with notes. And to the one point, yes, when you look at it, we do have to do a traffic study. And does certain intersections, or do they meet warrants for any other traffic control, signage, etc.? Now, just because there's a traffic study done, let's put a stop sign in. Again, it may or it may not meet what's called warrants. And there's a lot that goes into the traffic study, and we will do one. Traffic, where they're going, types of traffic, speed, all this is taken into consideration. There are times when, and again, I don't know the exact details of the 3rd Street, 4th Street sign controversy from before, I just know it was discussed quite a bit. There are pluses and minuses both ways, sometimes putting in stop signs. There can be actually adverse effects, adverse safety by adding stop signs in some conditions. I'm not saying adding one at 7th, 8th, 9th is adverse effect, is unsafe, I'm not saying that. But there can be times when just adding a stop sign doesn't fit.
The way it is now is
Again, we haven't looked at that, but.
Yeah. It's definitely unsafe. Now, regardless of whether you put a stop sign in, however you handle it, something needs to change there. And it's not 4th Street, it's 7th, 8th, 9th.
You're further east.
We're further away from town, and people are faster from there. We got high school kids coming home from school who don't quite know how to drive yet, too, and, there's a lot going on there. It's not safe.
I would also like, from a horticultural standpoint, to discuss the trees that will be affected by widening. That's a really big concern of mine. I have a degree in horticulture. I know for a fact that cutting these really nice old trees that are along there are gonna be damaged terribly. The roots are gonna be damaged. You know, they might be fine right away, 5-10 years, but then they're gonna probably, there's a lot of diseases going around, a lot of oak wilts, a lot of emerald ash borer, all these things. And the tree's going to be weakened from the root system being weakened, of course, probably cut in half. And they're just gonna be really susceptible to disease, and their xylem and phloem is going to be affected, their roots, their uptake of nutrients, everything's going to be affected, and I'm worried that we're gonna lose all those really nice trees along that road too.
I'm glad you asked, because believe it or not, trees is on my piece of paper here that I was gonna bring up. And this project would affect the trees that are out there, and we will lose trees. I don't know if, Steve, if you have a ballpark estimated count at this point, it's not final, but we are gonna lose trees. More so from the construction of the street, like you said. A lot of it's gonna have to do with the new water main going in. A lot of the trees is gonna have to do with the service pipes that are gonna be replaced, going to individual houses, individual lots. Putting all those together, this project will have some tree effect, and
I'm not gonna throw a number out.
okay, I didn't know, we haven't had the final count yet, because we don't have I don't know,
So they would be removed even before you started, basically, is what you're saying?
well, there's trees that we know would have to go, they would be removed. Now, we haven't gotten to the final, is there a replacement plan? Is there going to be a tree put back for every tree taken out? Is there gonna be some other plan? That we haven't finalized as of tonight. Again, we can look at that, and I don't know if we're 3/4, 75% done with our plans, or, we're not 100% complete with the design. And that's one of the issues, along with
But if we didn't widen the street, I feel like those trees could be saved in that area.
my gut is we would save some. Again, I don't have the number, but my gut is yes, even moving the street, even if you go 2 feet, you're gonna impact some trees, no doubt about it. I don't wanna say this, but the bad news is, in some cases out there, just putting in the curb directly in the exact same spot where it is today, you're still gonna lose trees. But some of those trees have grown to the point where they're almost, basically they're touching the curb, or the roots have gotten so big, they're almost undermining. So to remove the curb and put a new one in, and I don't know if I might be talking only a few trees or a couple, but there are some that would go just by virtue of replacing the existing curb in its existing
Sure, but
alignment.
it would still be less than.
Correct.
Than if
Yeah,
you're
that's-
cutting way into.
that's probably a
that
true
tree
statement.
On each side,
Yeah,
for
I would-
sure, yeah.
I would buy that.
Can I speak on the trees a little bit? That was one of my concerns, being part of the urban forestry board and committee, that we would like to be part of that, part of the process as part of the project, and put our recommendations for tree diversity, the right tree in the right spot. Like you said, there's some mature trees on the south side that are actually growing up into the power lines, which has been brought up, that are like slingshots. Wrong tree, wrong place. So as, part of the public works, we'd like to get the urban forestry board and try to get the proper trees in the right spot. You've mentioned emerald ash borer. Might be a good time to remove those trees at this point. Get something established in preparing for the emerald ash borer to come to Hudson. So that might be a good thing. The other thing is tree diversity, like I mentioned, is that hopefully we can get some trees along that corridor that will enhance the historic homes, along with getting the tree diversity and the right tree in the right spot. But we have to be conscious of utilities and your water services and, your sewer services and things like that also. So I have already spoken with the engineering that we'd like to be part of that process as tree replacement.
Will street grades and driveways and alleyways, et cetera, essentially the same as the current Vine Street?
For the most part on Vine Street, it stays pretty much the same. Some of the alleys where we're trying to pick up the low areas, we're gonna have to lower the alley enough to collect the water, to get it in there. And when I say lower it, 6 inches to a foot lower.
So, Tom had mentioned that there are draft plans. Are there draft plans that can be reviewed to show what the effect is at your property with the current design?
We're at about 75%. We could, if you have a specific property, I'd be glad to sit down with you and take a look at it. And
702nd Street, the northeast corner of Second and Vine, concerned about any impacts to driveways from our commercial parking lot there.
Christina, we can't really change grades right at that location. It pretty much has to go back in the way it is right now.
And that's a section that's 36 feet existing and will be 36.
That's 36 now.
Right, so
And,
it won't be widened.
right. And then, just not to get anybody's hopes up, but where we go over Second Street and go down to First, there's the way the buildings are tied in on the side, there's not a lot we can do with that. So somebody brought that up way early. Can we lessen that grade coming up to Second Street? Not a lot we can do. It was bad design 100 years ago. Yes?
You were talking about tying in some of that flooding between 4th and 5th Street in the alley.
Mm-hmm.
How far in were you thinking of going with that drain? Across Elm and picking it up behind the city water building too?
I don't think we're all the way up to the meter shop, but we're about 75 feet beyond Elm, Christina? Or is it further?
You're pretty close to, up to that city water utility lot. And if I believe there's a structure there now, somewhere close to the south lot line of that water utility parcel. And I think that's about how far we're going up.
Okay, so you're going across Elm Street and picking up that next area then?
Yep, yes.
Okay.
Correct.
Along Vine Street, can you tell me what kind of construction limits you're expecting for the contractors to be working? Are they going to be essentially taking over the sidewalk, or what's going to happen on that? Pedestrian traffic going to be taken away on Vine Street?
We're gonna save 90% of the sidewalk that's out there now. So the limits will be inside the sidewalks. And then the way I see it, and we're gonna talk about schedule here in a minute, but I'll touch on it, that it's gonna be sectioned off, and we haven't done a staging plan yet. But we can't let them open up or take over Vine Street from 1st to 9th and just completely shut it down. It's gonna have to be done in sections, and I don't know if that's block to block or 2 blocks at a time. We haven't put the thought into the staging plan yet, but that's my thoughts.
From a construction limit standpoint, physically, they're gonna need the entire right-of-way to work. The goal is to save the concrete sidewalks. So from a disruption and/or removal and replacement perspective, the goal is to leave the existing sidewalks in as much as possible. And whether there's 5 or 10% removal when you're looking at the full length of the project, but they're gonna need, this is gonna be a tough job just to do in the 66 feet. So that, yeah, there'll be maybe contractors, men walking around, or they might have just space for moving. But the intent is to try to leave as much of that concrete in place as we can.
And what's your time?
Ballpark schedule, here's where we're sitting at right now today. And whether the impacts of tonight's meeting may affect it a little bit. But we were originally shooting at trying to get the plans and specs pretty much finished in about a month, say February, maybe and possibly have the city council. The next step would be with an approved plan. The city would approve the plan and spec and authorize an ad for bid. And then we would have an advertisement for bid in March. Typically, the ad for bid would be at least in the paper or on an advertising period of at least 3 weeks. So we would potentially bid it at the end of March or maybe the first part of April. And then this particular project, the way it is laid out, is going to be a little bit tough to complete in one construction season. So the idea would be is to get construction going as soon as spring thaw occurs. Last year it was pretty early, some years it's May 15th, but that's the preliminary schedule as we sit here tonight.
What's the approval process on this being approved or disapproved? Is it a vote by the council members, or is there a committee, or how is
Yeah,
it?
as of right now, the council has ordered preparation of plans and specifications, which is what we're in the process of doing. The next step, they would approve those plans and specifications and authorize an ad for bid to be published in the paper. Then we would have that 3-week period where contractors would review the plans, prepare their bids. Then we would have a bid opening. Following the bid opening, we would review the bids, tabulate the bids, and go to council. At that point, council has the option to proceed or not proceed. If they proceed, they would order the project and award the contract to the selected contractor.
So from an input perspective, obviously we're here providing our input.
Correct.
I see a lot of empty chairs in here. I don't know if the council's supposed to be here, if this is a separate committee. How does our voice get to them? Is that through you?
Well,
Or is
we
there
have
another meeting when we can be in front of the council?
3 members here. Did I miss anybody? Is there 3 members here? So there are 3 members here tonight in the meeting. There will be discussions, and we will talk about the traffic items that were brought up here tonight, and we'll bring that back to the council. They will be involved with, we'll have to update them relative to doing further study. So
this
I mean, it isn't gonna be, they'll know about it, but at some point, we, based on what I'm hearing here tonight, and this isn't gonna be the only public meeting, typically you would have 2 or 3 of them anyway. And relative to, somebody mentioned cost, so I'm gonna throw out potential assessment at this point. That is another legal process that has to occur. For the city to assess any of these costs to the abutting parcels, we would have to have a public hearing on the proposed improvements, and you have to follow state statutes and how that works. You have to advertise it in a paper. That notice has to be so many days in front of the meeting. Any affected property owner has to be notified individually by mail. You have to get your preliminary assessment, your preliminary estimated assessment number by individual. That's included in the notice that you would receive in your individual mailbox. And then that would go down the similar process. Yes.
Tom, when you're talking schedule, when you say, may carry over, from the standpoint of, would you start at First Street, go then east, or do you go 9th down to First?
Well, we don't have that. Okay.
Then I'll just throw it all together.
Sure.
So that if we're doing piping and utilities, et cetera, would you do that in segments from the standpoint of, rather than like you did with Wisconsin Street where it's all ripped up at one time, how do you do that?
Yeah, first of all, I can't give you a specific definite answer, but I can give you a general answer that's gonna hit it pretty close. There is no way that we can go and say bituminous removal is one of the first things they do on a project like that. We are not gonna go down to First Street, start removing bituminous, and go all the way up to 9th Street. It would be chaos from many different standpoints. We will not allow the contractor to do that. In our bid specifications, we will have sequencing. There's an item that'll be sequencing, detouring, all that will be in there. Now, we can't exactly tell him means and methods of how to exactly build the job, then we get into trouble. But we can put stipulations. I've been involved with jobs, like Steve said, you might have to do certain things a block at a time, maybe before you do, or 2 blocks. The good thing here, and I don't know if anyone's gonna agree with me that it's a good thing, but there's reasonably short blocks here, 350, 400 feet. And that's typically what you're gonna do relative to, usually in sanitary, you're gonna go manhole to manhole. In this case, we're leaving most of the manholes in place, so it isn't a sanitary issue, but storm sewer is gonna have catch basins at certain structures. Typically, a lot of things, you want to start downstream. Like, for example, a large storm sewer pipe. Typically, how it would go in is start on the downstream, work upstream. There's some other issues relative to things like that. Depth of pipe. A lot of times, whatever's deepest goes in first. Not all the time. But again, this is, we will put some, I don't want to use, well, it'll be some restraint relative to the contractor's sequence and how he can do this. Detouring will be another component. When we shut down streets, we're gonna have to have some sort of detour laid out. But it will be in some segmented fashion. It almost has to be.
Quick question on access for those that don't have an alley and their only access is from Vine Street. How's that gonna be handled?
Yeah, I mean, we will have to, individual houses will have to maintain access. We have to maintain access for emergency vehicles. We keep referencing the Wisconsin Street because it was just done, in that particular one, it was relatively easy because there weren't a lot of direct access on there. I know there's that short half cul-de-sac that you come in, and so there's 6 houses right there, and then there was the Christian Community Home. But that entire project was segmented as, not as, this one will be more segmented, but it was built around the Christian Community Home driveway, keeping access open at all times to that. And we would have to do something similar on this project, so you'd be able to get in and out of your houses. Now, it might not always be on a hard surface like the existing asphalt or concrete. It might be temporary gravel for some period of time, but the intent would be to get things built and get restoration in an orderly fashion throughout the project.
We write the specs so you'll always have access to your driveway at night. Except for right after the curb and gutter goes in, there's a period of a week where you can't drive over it or you'll break it. But otherwise, at the end of the day, we make sure you can get in and out. And then the representative will keep you informed, what's going on the project. The next day, your driveway might get closed, so if you need to get out early. So, it hasn't been a problem if we just talk to everybody.
And we're almost hitting some of the things on our agenda here, I see. And the last thing there is, relative to that communications on job, there will be a full-time individual there. That individual will have a phone. You will be able to contact, there'll be someone that you can contact no matter what issue arises. We typically would most likely have a weekly update. I know Wisconsin Street, for example, had a weekly update that was put on the city's website. So we will also be doing things like that relative to communication. But the main thing is we're going to have a full-time individual out there to handle the construction. And again, there's no easy way to take out a street, put in utilities, and put back the street without some inconvenience. If there was, I'd like someone to tell me how to do that, and then I'd be a really smart person. But
Along with communications, but we have garbage pickup.
Correct.
That's on Vine Street, so, and
Yeah,
because that's a city contracted, would the city then be making those arrangements?
yeah, again, I don't have the specifics, but we will make sure that you'll have garbage pickup, you'll have mail delivery.
Well, that,
But, we can't just shut everything down and for a month or 2 months. We realize that. Sometimes you have to set up temporary mailboxes but no, that we'll work with you as best we can, and we aren't gonna shut you out of the garbage pickup, mail delivery, those types of things. Yes?
The issue too on our side is where Marcus and I live, going from 9th Street all the way down past where A Street would be, there is no outlet for snow melt off, and the sidewalk is always really slippery along there because there's just no drainage and also the sun doesn't shine on that side, it's on the other side. And I've talked to Tom Dooley, Dave Kupich, a lot of different people about, I think it would be a good idea if we just put a little gutter so that, during the middle of winter, some water can, with an opening to the curb, so that water can drain off, because
This is a winter problem or a summer problem? Excuse me.
Pardon me?
Is this a winter problem or a summer
Winter
problem?
because of the ice.
Okay, so like a snow melt in the February, it warms up a little bit and you get some runoff?
Not just in February, it does it all,
Okay.
if we have snow.
Yeah,
it gets really
we can
bad.
look at that.
But putting in a little
Like a curb cut or something you
Just
were?
a curb cut out and just a little dip down so that when the water comes down, it can actually get out because it's, you know, goes a long, long way with no, and it is dangerous, you know, and it's steep, that's the steepest part right there.
We'll look at that.
It also helps when you get when you shovel your walkway though, Pat. That also helps a lot.
It does get shoveled.
Steve, another thing we did on this Grandview Drive street project, where, you know, as far as we talked a little bit about mail delivery and communication, we had temporary mailboxes on each end, so the people would get mail, and then we had a special mailbox, and we had put weekly updates in that, so the residents could go and get weekly updates on, you know, from that mailbox. So that's an option we could consider also, along with the city website.
Last year, we updated, you know, we gave Debbie the update once a week to stick on the city website. And then there is a phone number, there'll be a designated phone number to call in and leave a message if nobody answers, and your phone call will be returned within 12 hours, you know, the next morning you'd get a call back.
Go ahead.
What's the extent of work on Second Street? Will it go any north and south of the Second and Vine intersection?
We're gonna minimize the amount of work we do on Second Street, because that's scheduled to get done, it got changed now, right? To 2019 or 2020?
Yeah, well, last word is it was delayed 2 more years, 2019 plus 2
That was
years.
part of the impetus for doing this now, was to fit it in before the state came through and did 35.
Well, there's actually 2 state projects that this is somewhat being coordinated with. There's a 2017 project and there was a 2019 project. We've just been told in the last month that the 2019 project, which is the redoing of Second Street 35 through town, which was going to be a mill and overlay from I-94 to Vine and a total reconstruct from Vine up to Malibu. We have been informed that that likely has been delayed 2 additional years. So, and I think we may be meeting with the DOT, but that meeting has not been set up, but the preliminary indication is it's not 2019, it's 2021. But there's still, as far as we know, the city's still been told there's going to be a big DOT project on I-94 in 2017 that's going to impact Vine Street. The reason why it's going to impact Vine Street is at certain times during that 2017 construction period, they're going to use Vine Street for a detour. At some point in time, the ramps are shut down. And I knew that would make a lot of you happy. No, but there's...
Can we just close Vine Street?
Let's do all bike lane on Vine Street.
We have no control over the project, so to speak. I mean, it's a DOT project.
Is there a study on the damage that would cause to the project we're paying for the next
Yeah,
5
then
years?
our investment's really being damaged.
I have had some preliminary communications going down that road.
That seems like.
Very preliminary, and I don't know where they would end up, but I have started that.
Why would you use Vine Street instead of Cooley Road?
Part of it has to do with the part of the detour is traffic coming from the north, from 35 south. They got to get to Carmichael Road. I don't have all those facts with me tonight. I just know that there's certain ramp closures at the 2 bridges here. There's 2 bridges, for 35, and I can. If you want to, I can take your name and number and get back to you, but I'd really prefer tonight. I'm not trying to back out of not giving you an answer, but that is not my project, and I'd rather get real information and get back to you before on the DOT project. Because I'm not, again, it's a DOT project. I'm not designing it, and the city's not. I mean, we're involved, but anyway.
You touched on it possibly being more than one construction season project. When will you know?
No, our goal is to build this and be done in November. Again, it's not gonna be as simple, it's gonna be tough, but that is what our goal is at this point.
So your hope is to have it done in one season?
Correct.
Okay.
Hopefully, we would start in April. Everyone knows there's something called winter around here that kind of affects that, and there has been years where there's been 70s and people are golfing in April. I think it was 2-3 years ago, but yeah, I mean, it's totally weather dependent on when you start. And then obviously at the other end, November, it's weather dependent on,
So it could extend into 2 seasons depending on weather, but you wouldn't expect more than that?
I hope it doesn't. I can't guarantee that.
Right.
I've
Because
seen,
you don't control the weather.
I mean, I've seen construction seasons where it'll rain 23 days in June. Well, if it rains 23 days in June, you don't get a lot done sometimes. But the goal right now is to get it done in one season. Yes.
Did I hear you say that to finish hopefully by November of 16, but that there's a potential that Vine Street may be used for a detour for the
2017.
The very next summer?
Correct.
We can't wait till 2018 so that we're not hurting this brand new nice road.
Well, whether you put traffic on a road 1 year later or put traffic on a road 2 years later, I don't even know if you could measure the difference in the effect.
No, I mean, doing the Vine Street project in 2018 makes so much more sense.
After the
After the freeway project is done, that makes so much more sense.
I think there's other issues also with stormwater that have rised over the several years that, need to be addressed also.
Well, again, there are.
To put that issue off for 2 more years could be a tough sell.
Again, there's multiple facets driving the need for the construction. Old utilities, flooding, deteriorated roadway.
Yeah, I think we understand that. I think we understand our position on, do we really need to widen the street? Wider street means flush the traffic through faster. So there's a safety issue, speed issue, stop signs, all those type of things that I think we're all very passionate about. The road getting closer to our houses, if we're gonna add 2.5 feet to each side, I think I read that somewhere, we're gonna expand to 5 feet. A lot of those houses are very close to the street, some aren't, but, so you've got all that type of stuff.
No, I understand.
So you understand our position, I think, from that perspective.
Yep.
I think we understand yours on the utility side of things. I think somehow we're gonna have to come to a compromise on how this works.
It also seems like now that we found out about the 2017 project, I feel like we're rushing to get that done so that everybody can flush through better on the freeway project, because otherwise it makes no sense to do this until the Vine Street project until 2018. So it's feeling now like we should have let off the meeting with that information, because that's pretty big. It's pretty big for us.
Well, again, this started in 2010 with a downtown flood study. There's flooding and there's some drainage issues. That's where this originally started in 2010. There's been 2 subsequent feasibility studies dealing with roadway deterioration since then. Again, in the overall scheme of the life of a roadway, that roadway is almost at a point where the city does not want to spend maintenance dollars, like on a mill and overlay, for example. And the cracking and the condition of the roadway is such that, again, the culmination of all these needs are coming together. So, and again, the flooding issue and all these are issues, and we have some issues on flooding, and if we just delay them 2 more years, I know there's a couple people that are not going to be happy with that. But
So these type of projects have been done in the past. From a project timeline perspective, what's the estimation that you guys are estimating to get it done, whether it's in a full year or 2 years? We talking, it's a normal 6-month project, 8-month project. I mean, I know there's 23 days of rain to worry about and things like that, but normally, how long do these projects take?
Well, the word normally doesn't fit with that because each project's different, depending on what you're doing and the degree of difficulty, what pipes you're putting in, the depths of the pipes you're putting in. We did a project this summer, 2015 streets, where we did Cooley Road up by the Target and the shopping center. We did Croycrest Industrial and Aspen. And those projects went pretty quick because there was no sewer, added sanitary sewer, there was no added storm sewer or water main, so pretty much the utilities, there were some small adjustments and things relative to payment, but when you're just doing a roadway plan, and then that one, like in front of Target, that we did remove the curb and gutter, and that adds time to remove, replace, cure time, that type of thing, but, no, this is a difficult project from the standpoint of the utilities are involved, and to say it's typically a 5-month project or 6, you know, if we were doing one block, I could say, yeah, it's typically gonna get done in 2 months. We don't have one block, we have a few, but, and again, this is something that we started out with too. We have had discussions. Can we build, we started right away, can we build this in one construction season? We had discussions. Okay, when I do things like that, I bring in somebody that is like a construction expert. A lot of times I sit down with contractors that bid the work and do the work. Just because I'm an engineer, I have an idea on, here's our design. Here's how I think it should go. What do you think? You're the contractor, you build it. Sometimes we're total agreement, and sometimes we're not in total agreement. But and that's good too, because you don't want to put a job out there that's mission impossible. Because, I mean, if you do something like that, I mean, you could potentially end up in, okay, the job's not done. Well, the job's not done, residents unhappy. Okay, legally, I'm getting into contract type things where there's, you're gonna penalize the contractor now, liquidated damages, and none of them things they're not good for anybody. So a realistic schedule and a realistic completion date is something we review it as part of the process.
I mean, there's timeline risks and
Correct.
scope. I think the huge risk with timeline is, what if you don't get it done in the season?
Well,
And
I've seen.
then I'll finish.
Okay.
And the detour has to go through Vine, so you've got a half-done project. Who's gonna win in that debate? The state? Or
We're gonna
the
win.
government?
No.
So now we're gonna have a half-done
Well-
project that's gonna have to wait till 2018 to get finished. We're not gonna be able to leverage.
Assuming we run into some bad weather, because typically that's the issue that throws you into a delay. It can be something else, but if we get delayed, I know, we're sitting here today, I can't tell you what it is or what the solution is. One potential solution is, yes, we don't finish the entire project. Maybe next year we have to come by and put the last lift of asphalt, or maybe I've had projects where you do something, you put temporary asphalt down in November, and, I mean, there's different solutions. I don't want to throw out what the solution is, I don't know what the issue is, but there are projects where sometimes you come back the following year to put on the final lift of asphalt. You can do things like that, but you for sure would want to get your curb and gutter back in, especially on a street like Vine Street with the topography change and everything else. But there are some options we have, such as that, to come back and finish it the following year.
I have a question. You mentioned earlier that the flooding, and why can't you deal with the flooding first before you start dealing with further up Vine Street where you want to widen it and do all that stuff in anticipation of the freeway traffic coming through? Why don't you take care of the flooding issue first and then deal with Vine Street the next year?
To solve the flooding problem, we have to put in storm sewer pipe. The pipe's going to go in the street, and in this particular case, the storm sewer is the deepest pipe that we have to put in. There's no way we can rebuild that street without putting that storm sewer pipe in first. It's just,
So the people who are experiencing the flooding will be the last people to benefit.
no.
Well, the runoff's gotta get caught uphill.
I guess I'm not understanding the question, I guess.
Well, I think what Sharon's saying is, the people that are getting the flooding problems are the ones receiving all the water that's coming down Vine Street or the hill, right?
Well,
Water runs
it's a
down.
little bit bigger than
I
that.
don't understand.
Part of it's these alleys. Part of it is Locust Street. I don't know how much time everyone has. One of the original drainage studies that identified flooding up on these alleys, they identified flooding at this intersection at 3rd and Walnut. One of the other areas is Locust Street in the businesses right here. When we have a very high intensity rain, 3-4 inches in hours. The south side sidewalk over here on Locust Street is flowing towards the river 9 inches deep, going into the businesses. That was one of the things identified that was gonna be added, or actually it was gonna be part of this project. That segment of the project is since not, it's not part of this project. We're not gonna do anything on Locust Street. However, one of the things we're doing, the Vine Street, we're doing the new storm sewer that's gonna take some of the drainage that's going there. Now, is it gonna correct that problem? No, it's not gonna correct it totally, because that's another study and another project. But it will impact that in a positive manner by taking some of the runoff away, because it right now comes down 3rd Street and then blows down Locust. So, I mean, again, when the city started in 2010 with this drainage study identifying various problems, Vine Street is one of the solutions. So the storm sewer going in there will impact Locust Street in a positive manner, but will not correct the whole problem. And it's not meant to, but we're taking some of the drainage that ends up there today. Yes?
You talked about sequencing and the feedback from everyone needing the time to do a study for safety and speed and everything on Vine Street. How will the results of that be presented to us as far as the sequencing of everything? Is there going to be adequate time to get that done in an appropriate manner and then presented, or will a decision just be made without us knowing?
No, what I would suggest, and it's gonna be tight, this is a tight schedule. So what I'm thinking, and again, taking my notes based on what I'm hearing, is we're definitely gonna look at some of these issues that we talked about tonight. I can't tell you right now that it can be done in 1 week, 4 weeks, 6 weeks. That's something I'm probably gonna have to sit down and talk with the consultants and a few others. But we'll try to expedite that schedule as fast as we can. And then what I would assume the best thing would be to come back, potentially even in a meeting like this, or some public meeting, whether it's just another public informational meeting, or whether it's tied into another city council meeting. But one of the reasons why I did pass around a sign-up sheet, and I hope all of you signed up on there, if we do have that second meeting, or if it happens to be on a council meeting, we can directly notify everyone that's here. We can send out, we have the mailing list that everyone was notified originally. We can send out that mailing list a second time and let you know that, yes, we're having this type of a meeting, or this type of a meeting, and when it is. I can't tell you right now, it's gonna be next month, but if you call me in another couple of weeks, I'll maybe give you an answer, but it's something, we're gonna look at it, and we're gonna try to figure out what we can do in whatever time frame we have.
Is it a given that you are going to widen Vine Street?
I would say no, it is not. I mean, right now, that is the plan. As far as I'm concerned, one of the options would be put the curb back right where it is today. Now, whether that's a conclusion or not, I can't say that, but it's back on the table for sure.
Good, thank you.
You know, yeah, but.
Is the storm sewer going to go right into the St. Croix, or is it?
Well, right now, the storm sewer up and down First Street, and there's storm sewer. Steve, put that other board up there. The storm sewer the current storm sewer now flows through a few structures right in the beach parking lot, the boathouse parking area, and that's pretty much the same alignment. We initially tried to use that pipe and tried to take this water and put it right in that, but capacity-wise, that did not work out. So this is, correct me if I'm wrong, Steve, we got kind of call it a mini parallel system when you're in that parking lot down by the beach. Mm-hmm. So it'll discharge right next to the current discharge that the current existing storm sewer is. I don't know, 50 yards, 100 yards south of the beach, somewhere right south of the beach area.
South of the beach. We can't discharge upstream from the beach, or the beach gets contaminated.
But
Yes.
along with that question, how does it fit additional stormwater discharge into the St. Croix River or Lake St. Croix? How is that in keeping with the total maximum daily load study that was done to keep phosphorus and other nutrients out of that water body so that it doesn't turn green in the summer? I mean, Wisconsin and Minnesota have been working on this at a state level for a long time, and every watershed has limits assigned to it as to what it can introduce into the water body. So I'm not so sure that you can just increase pounds of phosphorus based on the volume of water willy-nilly.
We're not it's the same water going there.
Yeah, the drainage
It gets
area,
there now,
same
it
drainage
just
area.
floods first. and
But
then
part
it
of
goes
the
down.
project is to reduce the amount as
My backyard is
over
your
time.
watershed right now. Either way, it's gonna go down there.
But see, the
That's
solution
100,000 gallons
is
right
that stormwater is allowed to go into a holding basin or something and seep into the groundwater, removing the nutrients. You might wanna look into that a little bit. Because I know there are conditions that both states have signed on to that says there's a reduction from both sides of the St. Croix River that has to occur. And it's stormwater, it's agricultural runoff, it's all these kinds of sources that are targeted. So it's not that you can't discharge to it, you just have to keep the contaminants from getting into the river. And there are engineering controls to do that. Sediment is another big one. But your question sort of brought that up. The other thing I wanted to mention that hasn't been talked about with regard to the project is dust control. Is that going to be part of the contractor's bid specs, that they maintain some kind of dust control?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, we always put a water truck in the bid schedule.
Okay.
And then we use it, if dust gets to be a problem, we have a bid item, pay item to pay them to knock it down.
Because usually
and
these kind of projects, that's the one thing that gets out of hand and doesn't get addressed.
There's many reasons, we've talked a few different times here tonight on segmenting the sequence of construction, and there's many reasons why you have to segment the construction with disruption, traffic, access to individual houses, erosion control, and the things you're talking about is another reason why it has to be segmented. You can't open up 9 blocks, because what happens if you open up 9 blocks and remove all the asphalt and all the curb and gutter and everything's sitting there, do you think it's gonna rain next summer? Well, I'm thinking it is. Is it gonna be heavy sometime? I'm thinking yes. If we have 9 blocks opened up, the erosion control issues would be huge. So again, erosion control is one, dust is one, access. So there's a lot of reasons why this needs to be segmented or sequenced construction.
See, I have a quick question, and Tom, I'm glad you came back, because I wonder, is this an urban legend, or if there's any fact to this? The Smiths, who used to own a home off of Vine and Fifth, always had flooding in their basement, and there was talk then that there's a river that runs under that area. Do you know, is there any truth to that? Is that an urban legend? Because if there's any truth to that, that needs to be addressed. That might be what the flooding is. I mean, there was talk about that from Prospect to Malibu, that there's some kind of waterway underneath those homes. Do you know?
I've always, I've often heard of that also, water coming down the 5th Street by the Cinder,
And it just
by the Cinder lot. But if you go look at a lot of the houses, you take a walk down 5th Street by the Cinder lot, and you'll see a little white pipe coming out of their basement, and all of a sudden you go by and some water is coming out. I think there's a lot of issues, I don't know about up on, up by 7th or 8th Street, but that 5th Street, 4th Street, that whole area, you walk by, and I think there's a lot of water in basements. Vine Street, Flores, when Anita Penman had that, she said, look at my basement. That's up on 6th Street, actually, where she had water in her basement. And you go down, like you said, down 5th Street, and
So do you think there's any back there? Because, I mean, if there indeed is water flowing under there, I mean, and making a bigger, drain switch pipe is not gonna address that issue, so do you go to the, I don't know, I guess, so we're not sure that this is a fix, or we're just doing the best we can and trying to come up with the best?
I think the issues that are in the alleyways are, it's, water that gets landlocked and trapped in, specifically in that alleyway being between 4th and 5th Street, and it's more landlocked. The water comes in from the alleys and from the yards, and the water just basically gets trapped. Or we've tried a few things over the years where we've tried to put pipes out to the north and flap gates and all kinds of stuff. When we get substantial rains, it just doesn't handle it, and there's several houses that are, that are getting flooding from that issue. It's not because of the water coming down Vine Street, it's because of the localized in the area right in those alleyways.
Okay,
Just one more answer. The storm sewer that we're designing and installing is not, the purpose is not to change groundwater. In fact, we can't do that. So the pipe that we're putting in, it's not to relieve somebody's basement water problem.
Right, and
that's a different issue, and
so you're
that
trying
we
to
can't.
alleviate flooding in alleyways, is that?
That's one of the
That's one of the flood issues, yes.
Because I'm just, what, there is indeed a river, well, okay, so.
But just so the intent is, the intent of the storm sewer design is not to lower the water table or have some sort of infiltration get into the pipe so that people's basements dry up and are great now. That is not the intent of a storm sewer design, and we really can't do that.
But if their basements do dry up, then that's just an added benefit.
Well, I mean, if they have a lot of water, if you have ponding and it's sitting around your house, chances are it's gonna be in your basement. But if it's... It will there, I think.
One other thing I wanted to say about the bike path is that I think would be like foolish to do the street without a bikeway, because one, for the environment, we kind of brought up that, but the less cars that are being driven, especially now in the future, since, there is such a problem with global warming and everything else, people should be able to, much better, people could ride their bikes to work, and also at the high school, it's like, okay, we've got to spend millions of dollars to get a big parking lot in school, more kids. I don't understand why they don't ride their bike, but if we had a safe bikeway for them, come off the streets and get up to high school, that would make a lot of sense. It'd be good for the health of the high school students, riding their bikes to school, and also good for the people in the town. They can, since the government center is up there, a lot of people that work up that way, and then along Carmichael, they could have one street to get up there with a bike trail. It would make a lot of sense.
Steve, another thing, I know a lot of the residents are concerned about safety and crosswalks. Maybe after the traffic study, as part of that traffic study, with the calming areas around the intersections. Another thing that maybe we could consider is there's solar powered pedestrian flashing lights. That could be, I don't know if this study will indicate where there's going to be the need for stop signs. If not, at least on certain specific intersections that are identified as crosswalks where the children are crossing for schools, it might be a good option to put these flashing solar powered pedestrian signs, where it's, you push button and, they're not on all the time, but when the students or the little kids or whoever could use those lights, I'd, maybe like to consider that. Specifically 9th Street, I don't know if they're gonna, because of the slope, I don't know if we want people stopping on going eastbound on 9th and Vine, to put a stop sign there, and then you got people spinning, and you might have more noise actually, so I don't know if you, but anyway, just as an option, we could consider some flashing pedestrian lights, signs.
Anything would help.
Yeah.
Just a comment on the bike lane.
Bike path, I was just thinking too, there's not only people going up the hill to get to the school, but also like people in town that work downtown. They could use that bike path to go downtown. It'd be nice to have like this, one of the parking lots, put an area for bicycles, because that is a problem too, that they're saying, well, we need more parking downtown for people. If people could ride their bikes to work downtown, have a nice place to take a lot less room than cars. That would also be a big advantage.
As a person who does actually commute from my home to my work on my bike, the only thing I would ask is that while I am fully in favor of bike lanes, it isn't necessarily true in my mind at least that Vine Street's the best place to put a bike lane for a purpose of moving people east and west through town. Whether there are better places that already are wider streets that would be in competition with the kind of volume of traffic on Vine Street, I would suggest is a fertile place to explore. I think there very much needs to be an extension of what's good bike access from Carmichael to about 9th Street. But from 9th Street, it just breaks down. But that doesn't necessarily mean Vine Street's the best place to put it, from 9th Street to downtown.
But Vine Street's the only one that goes through.
Actually, that isn't true. You could go 9th Street over to Wisconsin down.
Well, that doesn't
and
mean
through
the
that way
road, I'm
too.
saying is the only street that goes through from the river all the way up to Carmichael.
But people are able to turn on bikes. I mean, they are drivable, so,
Probably safer for the bikes too.
yeah, right.
Orange Street goes all the way through, you could go down Ninth down to Orange.
Right. That's what I'm
You
saying.
know, there's a lot of options.
Yeah, there's a lot of options. I'm just saying.
That's a good
it
point.
turned, And so putting it right in competition with the kind of volume you have on Vine Street, I know for myself, because I do bike up and down Vine Street, it's really scary.
Yeah.
So,
Good point.
yeah.
Did everybody sign in? And is the sign-in sheet back there?
The
Okay.
fact that Vine Street is scary is precisely why we need an opportunity to improve it. I mean, I
It's just
I go
as
this
scary
far on Vine
north
Street,
of
I
9th
live on
Street.
Grandview and I'm talking. And I ride bikes, I also see the kids walking and biking to school. And I'm on Vine Street quite a bit going the speed limit. And I'm totally aware of the amount of bicycle and pedestrian traffic that's along Vine Street. It's very large. It's a natural transportation connection. It goes every place. I mean, it goes downtown for shopping, it goes downtown for restaurants, it goes to the government center, it goes to the high school, the junior high. It connects to other bike lanes. There are bike lanes on Vine Street and on the east side of Vine Street. It's just a natural pathway for bicycle and pedestrian traffic. And the options, 9th Street or some of those options, I mean, I personally, I mean, I guess I have to have an open mind, but the obvious route is Vine Street. It's one everyone's already using. It's like if you build a building, a lot of people got in the habit of building a building and they didn't put sidewalks in until they saw where people travel. But people are traveling on Vine Street.
I understand the argument being made about how that would be the most direct route. I just don't think it's the most practical route in terms of balancing the interests of people who live there, the volume of traffic, and frankly, the safety of the bicyclists, even if you put in a bike lane. So that's my only point. I hear you, I understand.
Well, last year we had 2 people show up, right, Tom?
We're way over that.
Show up, so this was good tonight, that we had a good turnout, and we heard a lot of concerns. So,
Yeah, thank you very much for your
Thank you for
conducting.
We'll set something up, and again, we have the mailing list, and we have the sign-in list, so between the two of them, you know who you are.
Thank you.